Good men live in a quiet desperation and in a quandary for what happened to the woman they fell in love with, and what have they possibly done wrong that she's become so difficult and so unhappy. Hello, I'm Karen Seitz, and this is the Happy Wife School. This podcast is for married women to realize that we are responsible for our happiness, that no one and no thing can make us happy, and that our husbands are not the source of our unhappiness. In each episode, I red pill married women to know that we are the problem in our marriages to good men. For the good men, this podcast will wake you up to the realities of your wife's woman ways, to take back the power you've unknowingly given away to her emasculation in a constructive, caring way. Before we dive into today's episode, a couple reminders. My message is meant for common and usual marital issues. My podcast is not intended for abusive, violent, or compulsive behaviors in a marriage that are threatening or dangerous. Also, please take a second to visit my website and learn more about my courses, which offer solutions for married women and good men. You can find the link in the description below. With all that being said, let's get started. We're going to get into our topic today, which is, dear wife, open your eyes and heart to the man I truly am. The reason that I want to talk about this topic today, dear wife, open your eyes and heart to the man that I truly am, that over this holiday season, with all the challenges and ups and downs that the holiday season brings, which I shared about in the last episode of 2024, I had a wonderful realization of how much of my time I spend in my marriage appreciating and seeing and loving my husband for who he truly is. And that was a really special experience for me, that my love and appreciation for my husband is deepening and growing and expanding even more than I have known it to be for a bit now, for quite a few years now, but had a new level just of appreciation for the man that he is. So thank you, Adam. And realizing in the core of what I teach is that when we are unhappy as women and don't feel good about ourselves, we project that onto our husbands, and that is the lens that we see them through, which prevents us from loving them and appreciating them and showing them affection and gratitude for who they are and valuing who they are as our husbands. When we learn to be happy in ourselves and feel good about who we are and care for ourselves and show ourselves that we are important to us, then we start projecting our happiness and feeling good about ourselves onto our husbands. And I've had a deepening of that experience in myself and realizing now how much I project how good I feel about myself and my own happiness onto my husband in our marriage, and can see more and more each day the wonderful man that he is and all he does to contribute to our marriage to make it wonderful, and truly value him. And I want other women to have that experience, and I sure want the good men out there to have that experience as well, so that marriage can be a wonderful, wonderful place to be and to grow and to learn. Where we are headed today, after a little bit of setup, as I usually do, we're headed to what started out as 10 things turned into 20. Where we are headed a little later in the show are 20 things your husband wish you knew about him. So that's where we're headed. But the problem is, as women, we are so selfish, we are so self-centered and so entrenched in camp victim, blaming our husbands for the issues and problems in the marriage, that we can only see the negative. We are only focused on the problems. We are only focused on our husband's shortcomings and faults, that we cannot see any of the good things that our husband does in the marriage, and we cannot value them. all the things that a good man does and all the things that he is as a good man go unnoticed and unappreciated. So men in a marriage get disillusioned and wonder what happened to the woman that they married. Because before getting married, because we wanted the marriage and we thought a marriage and our husbands were supposed to make us happy, yet we were unhappy in ourselves. So we all know no one and no thing can make us happy. So when it doesn't work out that the marriage and our husbands can't make us happy, living in Camp Victim, we blame them for our experience and we stop, and the facade comes down. We stop being the woman that our husbands thought that they were marrying. So they become very disillusioned, wondering what happened to us, what happened to the best friend relationship we had before we got married. Because men truly think when they got married that they would have a wife who was going to be a team player and be collaborative and even compromise and work with them to make a successful marriage and have what I talk about, the dance. But as women, when we are focused on all the negative, we have no ability to have a healthy relationship with our husbands where we are a team and have a dance, because there's no way that we can appreciate and value any aspect of our husbands because, again, we're focused on all the negative and how our husbands are the sole problem in the relationship. And we're so focused on what they need to change, who we think they need to become, what they need to fix for the marriage to be good. And there can be no healthy relationship from that place living in Camp Victim. And men are so unappreciated and so disrespected in the marriage that they are actually, and you will read this in the comments, they're so unappreciated and so disrespected that they are satisfied with crumbs that we will give them. They don't expect or want a lot, and it doesn't take a lot for them to feel appreciated and loved. They will take breadcrumbs. But in reality, they deserve to be treated with the utmost care, kindness, appreciation, and fairness. And the sad truth is that good men live in a quiet desperation and in a quandary for what happened to the woman they fell in love with and what have they possibly done wrong that she's become so difficult and so unhappy. So ladies, in a quiet moment, if you as a wife are willing to sit down, zip it, and listen and actually really hear your husband, this is what he would want you to know. That despite the issues and the faults that you focus on, these are the 20 qualities your husband has as a good man when you stop blaming, criticizing, and finding all that is wrong. So I'm sharing 20 things your husband wish you knew about him. And of course, I think the most important is number 20 and saving the best for last. So it is crucial that you listen to this whole list to know and open up to see who your husband truly is. And in working with hundreds of good men in my courses, this is what they have shared with me in a very sensitive and vulnerable way, because these are the things that have been beaten out of them, that they have lost touch with because of how much they have been blamed and portrayed by their wives and society that they are the problem. And in usual fashion, depending on the topic, it can be a little more vulnerable. And obviously today, this topic is a little more vulnerable to me because I am sharing on the behalf of good men. And what I do and the message I have is very important to me to get out to women that can hear me, to get out to good men, because so many good men are suffering and disconnected and lost and depressed in life at the hands of us as women, as their wives or ex-wives or even girlfriends. And we have immense power and ability to begin to change this just by being kind and learning to live in camp, take responsibility, and seeing good men as the good men that they are. So I am sharing this on behalf of good men again, and excuse me if I'm a little vulnerable in doing that, but these are the 20 things your husband wish you knew about him as a good man, and I'm going to share from their perspective. And again, these are what men have shared with me in my courses that they sometimes struggle to reconnect with and really see, but it is the core of who they are as a good man. And I'm just going to read the 20 because they are powerful and speak for themselves. Number 1, I am introspective, admit when I am wrong, and am willing to make changes. Number 2, I am a good and straightforward communicator. I say what I mean without any hidden messages or games. Number 3 of what your husband wish you knew about him as a good man, I act morally in recognizing right from wrong and good from evil. Number 4, I am even-tempered, slow to anger, and not easily offended. Number 5, I am trustworthy, I can keep a secret, and my friends and loved ones can trust me. Number 6 of what your husband wish you knew about him as a good man, I am a big picture person and can see and know what is best for our family long term. I know that making short-term choices that might feel good in the moment may not be the best in the long run. Number 7, I am able to disagree without being disagreeable. And this man shared most of the time. So as I go through this, good men aren't perfect and never claim to be, but this is the core of who they are. Number 8 of what your husband wish you knew about him as a good man, I am very easy to please and appreciative of all the blessings and good things in my life. Number 9, I love for my wife and children to be happy and cared for. I enjoy providing for the needs of my family. Number 10, I find great joy in making others laugh and feel less worried in life. Number 11 of what your husband wish you knew about him as a good man, I always want what is best for my wife and my family. Number 12, I have a good and kind heart. Number 13, I work hard and always try to improve myself. Number 14 of what your husband wish you knew about him as a good man, I fully support my wife and always provide her encouragement in whatever she does. Number 15, as a father, I want my children to be set up and prepared for a successful life. Number 16 of what your husband wish you knew about him as a good man, I forgive things very quickly and easily and rarely hold a grudge. I do not live in the past. Number 17, I am an independent person that is willing to do what it takes to get things done and willing to take full responsibility for my own actions. Number 18, I always do my best to uphold my integrity, word, and character. Number 19, I am in tune with my family's needs, usually to a fault, sacrificing my own needs. And number 20, of what your husband wishes you knew about him as a good man, which is the most important. I will sacrifice myself and my own desires to uphold my vows and my responsibility to my marriage. So again, these are the 20 things that your husband wish you knew about him as a good man, that as women, through our emasculation of them, manipulation, living in camp victims, seeing them as the problem, we beat out of our husbands, have lost sight of, and cannot see because we can only see through that lens of negativity. But what I just described and the 20 things your husband wish you knew about him as a good man, which again started as a list of 10, then moved to a list of 15, and then we ended up with 20, is the core of who a good man is. And it doesn't mean he's perfect or that he doesn't stray from this or make mistakes or lose sight of his character and constantly being blamed and treated as the problem in the relationship. But this is the nature and core of who a good man is. So as a woman, when you sit in confusion, not understanding, well, what is a good man? These are the qualities and characteristics and who you married if you married a good man. And I know, and I like to give a solution for women and a solution for men. And part of the solution for women and what I have to address is I know some men are going to share this video with their wives because of that quiet desperation that they live in, wanting their wives back. The woman that they married, wanting a successful marriage, will be very courageous and brave to share this, to fight for their relationship, to fight for themselves, to fight for their wives. And some of you women who will watch this will think, as I have read through that list of 20, that's not my husband. That's not who he is. He's not the man I married. He changed. He used to be those things. And you need to understand that when we live in what I call camp victim, blaming them for the problems in the marriage and wanting them to change, one of two things happen. That because of the negative picture we paint of our husbands, we render ourselves incapable of seeing the wonderful qualities that they bring into the relationship and the good men that they are. And we see through a totally false reality, which is really kind of scary. And a good man is trying and doing the things and doing what his wife asks of him to try to make her happy. And it completely goes over our heads. So that's one scenario, that this is the man you're married to, but you've disillusioned yourself and can't see it. Or the second, and potentially why you can't see these values in your husband anymore and characteristics of him as a good man, is because you have beaten it out of him and he has given up. There comes a point where he can only be told he is wrong so many times, only to be withheld sex, affection, appreciation, respect for so long before he will throw his hands up and give up. And this is not how he shows up in the marriage any longer. And I have a solution for men in that too. Stick with me, because you won't feel good about yourself in that. But in speaking to the women, we have to first realize the walls we have put up, how we've pushed them away, recognizing they maybe have given up, or we have rendered ourselves incapable of seeing these qualities in them. And we have to move from camp victim to camp take responsibility, and have an openness and a willingness to see our side of the street of how we are showing up and how we are contributing and creating the issues and problems in a relationship. And as I always say, not to make ourselves bad or wrong, not to beat ourselves up or blame ourselves. That's not take responsibility. Blaming ourselves has no place in the process of taking responsibility. It is a experience of being humble, vulnerable, and willing to admit our wrongdoings, which is a sign of strength and character and integrity, to be willing to admit our own shortcomings and see ourselves as the problem so we can be the solution. And in moving from camp victim to camp take responsibility, it is the process of building a relationship with ourselves to feel good about who we are and to provide ourselves the things that make us feel good that we always wanted a man or another to provide to us, but they can't. We can't recognize when they are even doing those things if we're not providing them first to ourselves. And through that process, we can look at ourselves and take responsibility for our own experience of being unhappy in the marriage and in our lives and other relationships, that it's not happening to us. And when you do that, if the marriage is not too far gone and your husband hasn't given up to the point of no return, this good man will be right there waiting for you and eager to re-engage with you in the relationship, because it's all he ever wanted was for you to be happy and for you both to work together as a team, as a husband and a wife in your roles and responsibilities, and have a loving, intimate, healthy marriage. That's what he wants. He needs a willing partner, and it starts with you and building a healthy relationship with yourself so that you can participate with him in a healthy way, and with his nature being these 20 qualities that I talked about today and characteristics. You can have a lovely, lovely marriage and a dance. So for the men listening, for many of you, and I know this through the men I've worked with in my course and have seen it time and time again now, and all that you as the audience share in the comments, for many of you, you've forgotten that this is who you are. And you may have listened to that list of 20 and thought of all the ways you are not that, and the ways you have failed, and think of all the things you've done and had the yeah buts in your head. Yeah, but I lost my temper and got really angry, and I don't have patience anymore, or I've withdrawn and I've shut down, I'm not there anymore. That's what happens to a good man when, as women, we emasculate you and weaken you and make you feel and gaslight you to believe that you are the problem. On top of that, when you don't have that strength in yourself and can't take that objective stand back to see it is your wife and her unhappiness and it's not you, when you don't have the ability to do that because you can't see it and you haven't had the education and the training to see it, sadly, what happens is, as a woman, and I know this in myself too in the past, that as a woman, your wife pokes and provokes you to elicit the behaviors from you that she can use against you. Whether that's you losing your temper and getting angry and yelling. Whether that's pushing you and provoking you to be distant and withdrawn from the relationship. Pushing you and provoking you to where you might say something hurtful that then goes on her Rolodex of hurts forever. Or you stop being engaged as a father or a provider. Or you struggle to keep a job. You have to see the reality and understand how your wife as a woman can elicit those behaviors and patterns from you to use against you so that you no longer give her that power and use her as your greatest teacher, your greatest resistance to be the good man you are for you, in spite of how she treats you and gaslights you to be the problem. That is how you take your power back and find your strength and confidence in yourself as a good man again. When you unknowingly have allowed her to be down, which is why I have the Happy Wife School, which is both for women and for good men. I'm trying to wake the women up, but as much as I'm trying to do that, I'm trying to help good men see the reality of how you've given your power away unknowingly, so you no longer give her that power and you don't re-engage and reconnect with these qualities to appease your wife and try to make her happy. You do it for yourself to be true to who you are as a good man, so you feel good about yourself. You know you're in integrity with yourself, and your wife no longer has the power. So you reconnect with this as who you are for yourself, so you can break out of the gaslighting that you are the problem. Every time your wife can elicit a quality out of you that goes against who you are in your nature as a good man, she's winning. When you use her as your greatest teacher and your resistance to say, no, I'm not going to lose my cool right now. I see exactly what she's doing, and I'm going to stay calm, and I'm going to calmly walk away until she's ready, if ever, to have a civil conversation about this. Or I'm going to go do the things to care for myself and support myself and fill my gas tank, even if she's going to be angry at me, because that's reasonable and what I need to do for myself. That's how you take your power back. You don't want to get stuck in being a victim to your wife that she has done this to you. And of course you have choice. I teach good men, once you see the reality, you have to make a choice based on your values of what's most important to you. Some men choose to leave because they don't want to be with an emasculating woman who beats them down and treats them and pushes them to a point of losing the connection to who they are as a good man. For some men, based on their values, whether as a dad or a Christian or their faith, choose to stay in spite of their wife not changing and being who she is, but they become strong and confident in themselves, so she's no longer got them by you know what. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen today. If you haven't, go check me out on YouTube, Rumble, and X. You can find the links in the description below to connect with me there. For those women listening who know you are the problem and want a path forward to take responsibility and change your own inner turmoil and unhappiness, I have a course for women called the Happiness Program, which is the solution to the unhealthy relationship you have with yourself and the issues and challenges you have in your life and your marriage. You can find the link in the description below to apply for a free consultation with me. And for the good men listening who want a solution to take back the power you've unknowingly given away to your wife, I have a course for you too called the Marriage Rescue Course for Good Men Only that teaches you how to rebuild your strength and confidence as a good man so that you can navigate the relationship with your wife in a healthy, constructive way. Again, you can find the link in the description below to apply for a free consultation with me. Thank you again so much for listening, and I look forward to talking with you soon.